last class, we did the 9th verse. Nachamam tani karmani nibadhananti. O Dhananjaya, O Arjuna, these acts do not bind me, remaining like one unconcerned and unattached to those acts. Ninth verse, he takes samaya responsibility. They do not bind me. I remain unconcerned, unattached to them. We took the example of an actor on the stage. While he plays his role to perfection as an actor, right through, he's disconnected to the happenings on the stage. He's unconcerned to the outcome, whatever happens on the stage, because he has got attuned to his real identity. He knows who he is at playing the role. So the actor on the stage is unconcerned to the roles he plays on the stage. He's unaffected, he's unconcerned. The other example we took was electricity. Is unconcerned, unaffected by whatever it illumines. Yet another example we took was the happenings on the screen. In a theater, the screen is responsible for the entire projection to happen. Yet the screen remains unconcerned, unaffected by the happenings. Lastly, we took example of petrol. Petrol is responsible for everything to function, yet it remains unconcerned, unaffected by whatever it facilitates. Exactly the same way, he says, to the extent one is established in the self, to that extent one becomes instrumental, one becomes responsible for things to happen. While they happen, an aspect of their inner personality enables them to be unconcerned, unaffected by the happenings. So the extent of how much you are unconcerned or unaffected by the happenings. Let's say something happens to your family. How concerned or affected are you? There's no guarantee that nothing would happen to them. Any guarantee? No guarantee. But when something happens to them, how affected or unaffected are you? That degree of affectation, or to the extent you are unaffected, what determines that? To the extent you are attached to the self, to that extent you are unaffected to the world. That's the equation. If you are attached to the world 100%, the world will affect you 100%. Are you all able to hear me clearly? No issues? Great. Harish, all clear, isn't it? Great, great. So the extent of affectation, the world affects me 100% if I am not identifying with the self. To the extent you're identifying with the self, to that extent I am buffered, I am insulated. So that because the self is completely unaffected by the world, so by switching one's identification to the self, to the extent one is, to that extent one remains unaffected by the happenings. That's the message that we have got very clearly being conveyed here. So the real self, which is the core of your personality, it remains unaffected, unattached, unconcerned to everything that's happening around you. So you got to aspire to reach that state where you remain unaffected. As we brought out very clearly, sattva and tamas is sattva is where you are performing your action. Whatever actions you have to perform, you perform the actions. Whatever duties you have to execute. So perform the actions. While performing, you must remain as unconcerned as if you have nothing to do with it. So you are completely disconnected to the fruits and the consequences. What's natural is you get affected and fettered and consumed by it. But so the capacity to remain unaffected is the quality of the self. That's what he's saying here. I remain udasinaha, remaining unconcerned, asaktaha, unattached. Okay. We'll take up verse 10, please. So what I'm only trying to say is there is every opportunity you have to keep checking, assessing yourself to what extent you are affected, to what extent unaffected. And when anything affects you, the first thing people do is they drop the world. First thing they do is get rid of it. So it's extreme. Either you get completely attached to it and you're affected by it, that rajas, or if something is a source of disturbance or annoyance, you drop it. You get rid of it, tamas. So hardly anybody gets to that mode of operation of sattva where the action continues to go on. Hardly understood, very rarely practiced. 10. मयाध्यक्षेन प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते मयाध्यक्षेन प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय Jagadviparivartate. By me presiding, adhyakshena, presiding over what? My prakriti, nature. I just preside. Prakriti, nature produces the moving and unmoving. Now this verse, he takes no responsibility. I have nothing to do with the moving or unmoving. Very clear. So 10th verse here, he's saying, I don't take any responsibility, I just preside. Adhyakshena. It's like the king coming and taking his seat. Everything seems to happen on its own. I don't care what's happening. I'm not responsible. I am there. By just presiding, maya, by me, adhyakshena, by me presiding, prakriti produces the moving and the unmoving. Acharacharam. Charam, acharam. Moving and unmoving. Because of this, O Kaunteya, the world revolves. Jagat viparivartate, it revolves. So it just goes about doing what it has to do. Day and night, night and day comes. Years keep rolling by. Everything happening is because of Prakriti. Nature keeps producing. Now, the best way to understand Adhyakshena, the presiding deity, is in the text Panchadashi. We often quoted the text Panchadashi. Panchadashi is nothing but a text with 15 chapters. Pancha is 5, Dasha is 10. So when you put 10 and 5 together, it's 15. A text written by the great Vidyaranya. The great sage Vidyaranya wrote the text Panchadashi. Now, in the text Panchadashi, he takes an example of the light on stage. For example, everything that's happening now is because there's light on stage. So he says the Atman is like the light on the stage. In fact, if you are interested, you should read. It's a 15 chapters. If you're interested, if you have the time and the inspiration, you read. The 15 chapters is divided into set of each 5 chapters each. So the first set of 5 chapters are known as Viveka Panchaka, chapters 1 to chapter 5. Viveka Panchaka. Viveka is the discrimination between the lower and the higher. How good are you able to discriminate? This is between right and wrong. See, even to discriminate between something which is beneficial, detrimental. I do something, is it beneficial for me? Is it detrimental for me? I must have the Viveka to do that. And the same Viveka, you engage to discriminate between unreal and real. Whether it is illusory, whether it is the reality, you need that Viveka. Then comes Vairagya. Vairagya is to say no to the unreal and pick up the real. You get Vaishnavi? Viveka is the intellect to discriminate between right and wrong. Between a friend and a foe. This guy is a friend, this guy is a foe. He's a benefactor. Means someone who is in my interest. He's a malefactor. He is not someone who's interested in my well-being. You must be able to differentiate. After differentiating, separating the right from the wrong, you choose the right. How do you choose the right? You must have the Vairagya for the lower. You must have dispassion for the lower and have the passion for the higher. So it's always Viveka and Vairagya. Discrimination followed by choice to choose the higher. I don't want to, I clearly discriminate between the pursuit of the matter and pursuit of spirit. I don't want to pursue the material path. It's a discrimination. And having discriminated the path of matter and path of spirit, I can give up matter to the extent I have Vairagya for matter. How much Vairagya is there with me? It means what is Vairagya? Vairagya, I remember my guru always used to say this, Swamiji used to always say this. I don't want to know how many students you have, what all you're achieving in your life. I want to know how much Vairagya have you boys developed. That is a true measure of your spirituality. Oh, I've got 500 students, I've got an ashram, I've got this and that going. I'm not interested in all that. That's all right. It's good. But have you got Vairagya for the world? What is Vairagya? Vairagya is the object and the world has no value for you. They have lost the value for you. It doesn't enchant you anymore. That's Vairagya. And why doesn't an object enchant you? Because you have been driven with a higher passion. You are passionate with the spirit, so the matter will not have any passion for you. It is dead. It doesn't interest you. Why? Your interest is elsewhere. And it starts with, Vaishnavi, it starts with Viveka. You must know this is the wrong path, this is the right path. If I don't even know what is right, what is wrong, how will I choose the right path? So in the Panchadashi, the first 5 chapters is known as Viveka Panchaka. The second set, 6 to 10, talks of Deepa Panchaka. Nataka Deepa Prakarana. That's the connection I'm giving. He says, Atman is like a lamp on stage. Nataka, a theatrical performance is going on. I am like the light on that stage. It's happening. I am that. I'll explain that. That's in that section he talks of it. And the third section is the Ananda Panchaka, 11 to 15. 15 chapters. It is Viveka Panchaka, Deepa Panchaka, Ananda Panchaka. Now in this set of middle chapters, there he brings about this concept of presiding deity. I am there, that's all. Presiding deity means I preside over it. The chairman has presided over the meeting. Don't we use that word? We use the language. Means the meeting commenced once the chairman presided. When once the chairman took his seat, the meeting went on. Everything was held until he presided. Means in his presence, the entire proceedings happen. He may not do anything. The moment he comes, everything functions. The chief guest has arrived. The guest of honor has arrived. Pushpama, I have nothing to do with it, but I am the guest of honor. क्या करें? को जो भी करना है करेंगे. So he says the lamp on the stage. So Nataka, Deepa, Prakarana. So obviously the light is the Brahman. And there is the other three aspects of comparison. There is the dancer, the main dancer. And there are the accompaniments, the co-artists who are also performing on the stage. And then there's the audience watching the drama going on. Vasantama, there are 4 things I said. VAP. Who's VAP?
Viveka Panchadashi.
Yeah, Vasanta Apparao. Viveka Panchaka, so much Viveka you're having already. You forgot yourself. Vairagya, Anta Vairagya వచ్చేసింది. VAP ఎవరంటే వివేక అంటున్నారు. ఏంటి మా? VAP is Vasanta Apparao. That's a short form for you from today.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Hari Om. So, what are the 4 things in that analogy we are saying? One is?
Which one? So you're talking about the Panchadashi, Guruji?
Yes, in the text, I said there is the 4 aspects in the example of the light on stage. One is the light.
You said the light, the actor, or the whatever, then the dance.
The main dancer.
And then the audience.
The audience and the co-artists.
The co-artists, yeah.
Now, it's interesting the way he puts it. The main dancer, he says, is the ego. Ahankar is a role. Main role, key player is the ego. The other co-artists are the senses. The senses and the ego is dancing. And who is enjoying the senses and ego dancing?
Audience.
And the audience is sense objects. Amazing. He says the sense objects are the audience and the sense objects are looking and laughing at the senses. Man, you guys are going gaga at me. So the sense objects are scoffing, laughing at the senses and the ego dancing to the sense objects. And all of this is happening in the presence of the light. And what is the attitude of the light?
Unaffected.
Unconcerned, unaffected, not interested. And suddenly the meter trips. There is no power. Everything comes to a halt. Again, go back to the definition that we gave. With it, everything happens. Without it, nothing happens. Yet it has got nothing to do with the happening. That is the role of Brahman, Nataka, Deepa, Prakarana, presiding deity. I just preside by me presiding. That's what he says. Maya adhyakshena. That's all I do. Then what? Prakriti produces the moving and the unmoving. So he quietly shifts the focus from himself to Prakriti. In the previous verses, he said, Prakriti is born, my nature. From the waves comes the ocean. It's my svabhava that has brought out the waves. Now he says, I do nothing. It's the Prakriti that is creating the moving and unmoving. What is moving? The animate. The unmoving is inanimate. Inert objects is inanimate. The animal kingdom and the human kingdom are the animate. They are moving around. Senseless fellows, running here, there, helter-skelter. They are the animate, inanimate. In 2 words, chara, achara, he has covered the entire world. You get that? This is the language of the Shastras. Chara, what is moving? Living beings. Unmoving, inert matter. And what is that? Prakriti. Nature. So Prakriti, nature, produces Chara, Achara. And the world is revolving. And when you see the world revolving, what do you see happening, ma? There are three things in the world, isn't it? When you look at the world, the three primary forces in the world. The three primary forces are force of gravity. Science teacher, na? What are, when you look at the world, what are the three things that are happening? Creation, destruction, maintenance. Isn't everything in the world is nothing but there is birth and death, isn't it? What is creation? Creation is a birth. Death is destruction. In the process of this continuous creation and destruction, there's a beautiful maintenance that's going on. And what have we done? We have divinized all the three powers of creation, destruction, maintenance. Sanjay, what is the power, the god of destruction, the god of creation, the god of maintenance?
The god of destruction is Shiva. The god of creation is Brahma, and the god of sustenance is Vishnu.
So what are these? What are these three gods?
They're the personifications of each respective what we call power, destruction, sustenance, and creation.
These are, we have only divinized the three manifestations of God in the world. These are the manifestations of Brahman in the world. So whenever we use the word gods as plural, remember, if you remember, Sanjay, earlier we have learned this, whenever there is plurality of gods and goddesses, it refers to the powers of Brahman, the manifested powers of Brahman, which refers to the world. It's like we have given divine, we have divinized these worldly powers of expressions of Prakriti. That gods are not, is not God.
Yeah.
They are two separate things. God, G-O-D. God is Brahman. Brahman here is the
Purusha.
The Brahman here is the Atman, the Purusha. But in the verse, what is it being said? The Brahman is. How is he saying the Brahman as? How did the verse start, Sanjay?
As the light in this example, is that what we're saying?
Sorry?
Brahman is the light in this
No.
example?
No.
No.
I think Brahman is the presiding deity. See, that Brahman has nothing to do, it just presides. From Brahman, he said there is moving and unmoving. There is this world that revolves, which is subjected to creation, maintenance, destruction. We're only trying to understand that which is Prakriti. Prakriti is creation, maintenance, destruction. Prakriti is Chara, Achara. And what have we done? We have given names to this expression of power of Brahman in the world, isn't it? We have just given names. Who is Shiva? Who is Lord Shiva? It is nothing but, you mean to say Lord Shiva, the power of destruction existed before Lord Shiva? The power of creation existed before Lord Brahma? Did the power of maintenance exist before Lord Vishnu? Yes or no?
Yes, they did.
Absolutely. These are names that we have given. See, the child is born, and after the child is born, with love, we have given various names, no? Kana, Chinna. We have given various love. With love, we have given description, but the child has to be born first. So these are various names given to manifestations of power. And the manifestations of power or expressions of power in the world is play of Prakriti, and the presiding deity has got nothing to do with Prakriti. Brahman has got nothing to do with Lord Shiva, Vishnu, or Maheshwara, or Ganesha, or whatever you call. It has got nothing to do with it. Who's saying that? I'm not saying. Lord Krishna is saying. Don't look at me like that, ma. Amma is looking at me with, I don't know. What is this fellow saying? I'm not saying anything. I'm only interpreting what is said. I just preside, and Prakriti produces the world and the moving and unmoving. I don't do anything, and this world revolves. There's birth and death. I have nothing to do with the birth and death. It's just unconcerned. It's just there. That's all. Following, Sanjay? So it's just the grandeur of what that presiding deity means. We get the picture. The gods and goddesses are just for our convenience. It's just different names, different identities given to understand the various powers that are manifesting in the world. That's all. Our convenience, but it's not that these powers have any significance. Sir, Reddy Garu, the highest truths of Vedanta is, they say the world is an illusion. Correct? If the world is an illusion, then Lord Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma also must be illusion, no? Am I right? Is my logic not correct? If the world itself is illusion, then the manifested powers in the world also are your imagination. How can I glorify a manifestation as Brahman? I should not, I cannot. So the whole objective is to take us to that unknown. So we are using every possible known terms to only get to the unknown. So everywhere they keep throwing this idea to us. Everything is a play of Prakriti. Don't get caught up in Prakriti. You got to get to the Purusha. The Purusha is the presiding deity. That is a Brahman. I am supreme. The Brahman is supreme. Rest all is the lower. That's the hidden message here. Huh? Sorry? Can you throw it out? There has to be a certain discipline. Banji, no problem. Right. So Redigar is asking, is all these names of these gods and goddesses, are they stepping stones to reach Brahman? So the concept is idols. IDOL is only a symbol. The idol or a symbol conveys or represents the ultimate goal, which is the ideal. The ideal is Brahman. So these are stepping stones, means I use them as props, as symbols, as this tilak also is a symbol. The robe I wear also is a symbol. The prayer you chant is a symbol. The text I'm holding on to is a symbol, because the text reminds me of the ideal. Idol is only meant to remind you of the ideal. It's like the tali, the lady, your wife wears a tali around her neck, symbolizes the union with her husband. Or the wedding ring you wear is the union of a marriage between a lady and a man. It's a symbol. The national flag represents the nation. The national anthem instills the national consciousness. So they all have a connotation, a representation. They convey something. By itself, they don't mean anything. No. So what is further asking is, there's so many gods, hundreds and thousands of gods. Why are they hundreds and thousands of gods in the, especially in the Hindu religion, the Hindu pantheon? Why are there so many gods and goddesses? You know, the reason why there are so many gods and goddesses, so the gods and goddesses are a creation of the mastermind of the rishis of the past. There was a time where these gods and goddesses did not exist. All what they worship was a formless reality. You must conceive it. If you can't conceive, you are childish intellect. Everything that you see in nature has been given a name and a form. So what I'm saying is, in the very beginning, there was only worship the formless reality. That is Brahman. But as time came, the human intellect deteriorated. People couldn't attune to that formless reality. If I tell you to think of Lord without a form, you will be lost. I send you into a prayer room, and the prayer room is nothing but a beautifully plastered, empty, white wall. All you see is white flooring, a white ceiling, and white walls all around. And I said, this is the prayer room worship. There's not even Om, there's not a dot, nothing there for you to peg your concentration on. You say, what am I to worship here? This is God, worship. You'll go mad beyond a point. After a while, you can't concentrate because there's nothing. Formless reality is concentrating on nothing, which is everything. That nothing is everything, but you can't concentrate because you're not at that level. So what the masters realized, it was very difficult to draw an immature mind to fix the mind on Brahman, the formless reality. Now, then they came up with a mastermind. They tried their best to pull the mind and plant it on the self, but they found it very unsuccessful. So what they did, they actually studied the human mind. They studied the mind in such detail, they found out where all the human mind went. And what they just ingeniously, what they did, wherever a human mind went, they planted a god or a goddess. That's the reason there's crores and multitudes of gods and goddesses. Everything is worshipped. Sir, we just took recently a trip to Khajuraho, and we were told that on those temples which were over 1,000, 2,000, 1,500-year-old temples, you find there are certain obscene architecture of men and women. That also is divinized. Everything is divinized. Birth is divinized. Marriage is divinized. Death is divinized. Disease is worshipped. Demons are worshipped. Earth is worshipped. Elements are worshipped. So as a kid, when kid used to go to temples, they used to see all these kinds of statues of these damsels and in different postures. And he, finding them in outside a sanctum sanctorum, he thought everything is divine. He attributed everything to divinity. An innocent mind doesn't have an impurity, you see. How does a child look at it? Any impurity? No malice. But the fact that it is placed in a temple, it is divinized. There's nothing impure with it. So if you go that way, your human mind was avaricious to wealth. They divinized God as Lakshmi. Any inauspicious beginning, there's Lord Ganesha. Any destruction, you worship Lord Hanuman. Means you want to conquer evil, Hanuman. Like that, every aspect of human life and human mind has been divinized, and divinized with the only objective of turning your mind towards the higher. Just to make you spiritual, because without that prop or the tool, you couldn't elevate the mind. So they is planted so that you are able to think of the Lord in your mundane activities. But the problem is, people have picked up these props and tools and idols, and they've got stuck to the props and idols and tools. They only have a purpose, no? So beyond a point, they are seemingly meaningless, almost goes into absurdities. So the objective is, wherever there is an element of divinity, what comes is there has to be that element of vairagya. You adorn a robe of a Swami. What naturally you will conduct yourself in a spirit of detachment, in a spirit of vairagya. A fellow who wears sensual clothes, would you have any vairagya in that person? You are only trying to attract and invite and incite the world to indulge. You are in a discotheque. You want to go and party in a discotheque. You will not wear ochre robes and go. You wouldn't, because that doesn't announce what you are. You get that? So one who takes to these rituals or even looks up to these divine hearts has to exhibit certain amount of detachment and vairagya to the world. So I can't use them to justify and indulge in the world. Today, in the name of religion, is another indulgence going on. So the real purpose of all these gods and goddesses, or all these, what Hinduism has introduced, has lost its relevance, has lost its applicability. So it just has a sentimental, ceremonial value in our life. That's all. Deepavali has come. What have you done, Diwali? Have you burned the demon within you? What demon? I've only fed the demon in me. No, what? Have I done any charity? Have I done anything to crush my ego? Have I renounced any desires and attachments? That's what it means. Killing the Ravana within me means killing my attachments and desires. I buy new clothes for myself. I celebrate for myself. I eat myself. It's only I. Where have you renounced that I? Where have you crushed that ego? So everything is a big joke. In the name of religion, it's a celebration of non-essentials. The essential message is lost. Ramanavami celebrate. Is it just to worship the idol of Lord Rama, or to emulate the values which Lord Rama lived by? What values Rama lived by, and how can I emulate? It is just to cook what that day comes and they eat and enjoy. That's all. Nothing else beyond that. Festivity has become another means for indulgence. It's a far cry. So these, coming back to the text, he says the moving and the unmoving, which is chara, achara, animate, inanimate. The world revolves refers to the three gods of creation, destruction, maintenance, which is birth, death, and maintenance. Me presiding, all of this is happening. See, all these set of verses, so strongly he's been saying, God has got nothing to do with it. And yet, the ignorant people constantly keep believing God has created this world and God is responsible for things happening. You have to get rid of that thought. No, God is responsible for whatever is happening in your life. It's your own creation. Okay, so these set of 10 verses, verses 1 to 10, we learned about how the self pervades the world. Now, verses 11 to 19 talks of the second topic, how the deluded disregard the self, whereas the wise glorify and seek the self. Verses 11 to 19, the deluded disregard, that's quite obvious, and the wise glorify and seek. Okay, we'll move on. Verse 11, please. Avajananti mam mudhaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavamajanantaha mama bhuta maheshwaram. Avajananti mam mudhaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavamajanantaha mama bhuta maheshwaram. Mudaha, famous words of the Gurus. Fools disregard me, dwelling in the human form, not knowing. Avajananti, disregard me. Manushim tanu ashritam. Ashritam, dwelling. Tanum. Tanum means form. Not knowing param bhavam, not knowing my supreme nature, they disregard me. Because they're caught up in the human form, they disregard me. Who am I? Bhuta Maheshwaram, the great Lord of beings. So the great Lord of beings is being mistaken to be the human being. So the fools are caught up in the human form. The wise understand the greatness of the Lord. This is the difference of the perception of the fool and the wise. Disregard me means the self. Me is the self because they have transcended the body, mind, intellect. Fools disregard me. So in the context, who is a fool? Say to sir, who is a fool, sir? He has gone away. He's come back. Mudhaha. So how would you, who is a fool, sir?
Yeah.
The question is, who is a fool?
Ourselves. We ourselves. Ego.
A fool amongst us is one who does not recognize the self. One who doesn't recognize or doesn't seek the higher. Remember the famous words of Bhajagovindam?
Yeah.
Where he says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate Samprapte San Nihite Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. So he says, man, seek the self, O fool. So since you're not seeking the self, he's calling us a fool. And whom do we call a fool? A fool we call a fellow who has the potential and is not living up to his potential. And what a fool you have been, man. Perhaps in sport you use such a language. Just switch it off, ma. Help her to maybe airplane mode. So he says a fool is one who, the example, let's say in cricket, a fellow goes out to bat and he scores 5 runs and comes back to the pavilion. Pushpama, a fellow scores only 5 runs and comes back to the pavilion. What would you say him? What would the coach, if you are the coach, what would you say to him? If you are your teammate, what would you tell him? Only 5 runs is scored. What would you say? Pushpama says, I shouldn't say anything because you want me to say, I'll say something. He would say, better luck next time. You got out, it's all right. Better luck next time. Another batsman goes in. He gets out at 99, 98, 99. He played so well, so beautifully well he played. Everybody thought this guy is going to make his maiden 100. Beautifully played. 99, he got out, he comes back to the pavilion. Everybody there, what a fool, man, you are. You played so well till then. What happened to you at that moment? Have gone, lost your mind or what? You lost your senses? You make such a stupid mistake at 99, you'll make that mistake? Out of your mind or what? Everybody shouting at him, including the coach, everybody shouting. To a fellow who scored 5 runs and didn't contribute to the team, you say better next time, never mind. To a fellow who scores 99 and gets out, you say a fool? Means you are so close. You had every opportunity to get to that 100 and you missed it, man. Oh, fool. You are so childish. What a fool have you made of yourself. So when they call us, it is not to discourage us, rather to remind us of our potential. Like we would use that language. You would justify with that example, isn't it? You would say, you would encourage that person by saying a fool. So as we understand, human constitution has got that spirit and matter. So the wise identify with the spirit, the fools identify with matter. That's all. So the Lord here is deploring the ignoramuses of those who disregard the self and worship the human form. Elsewhere in the Gita, he says, the concept is, he says, fools rush in where wise fear to tread. What do you mean by that? Harish, can you give the meaning of that? Fools rush in where wise fear to tread. Harish. I'm not interested in what Harishji thinks. He is busy.
Hari Om, Guruji. What it means, Guruji, is fools Russian means most people follow the herd mentality, where the wise stay back and witness the events at a calculated point.
So the fools follow the herd mentality. Yesterday, some wise soul also was talking of herd instinct. And today you're also talking. So you're also as wise as the man who spoke yesterday. So the herd instinct or the herd mentality, fools ration means they don't fear. In fact, one of the descriptions of sattvic intellect is they fear not. A tamasic intellect fear not what's to be feared, and they fear what should not be feared. A tamasic intellect fears what not to be feared. What you should not fear, they fear. What should you not fear? They fear. What you should fear, they don't fear. Ulta, everything ulta. And they're very clear of the parts. What you should not do, they'll do. What you should do, they'll not do. Tamasic fellows, tamasic intellect. That's why in that context, they say, fools ration, where angels or wise fear to tread. These fellows rush in where a wise fellow will not go there. Example, what should you fear? We'll ask your elder brother, Harish. Mr. Harish Kumar.
Hari Om Guruji.
Namaskar, sir. What should you fear? Rajima is saying your wife.
Where angels fear to tread.
Where angels fear to tread.
No, but I think what you're referring to is that fools unthinkingly go in without following a rational policy of evaluating the options and deciding what is right or wrong. So they don't use the intellect. They just are operating on mind.
No. They are using the intellect with a perverted intellect. He's not saying the mind. Their intellect is perverted. They fear not what ought to be feared. Now, from the Shastras, what do the Shastras say? What the scriptures say, what you should fear. The Shastras say you should fear, okay, VAP.
Maybe we should fear it, attachments or being involved with the material part of the world.
You fear the attachments or worldly pursuits or getting into a frenzy of any worldly temptation. In fact, the Shastras put it in simple terms. You say you should fear the senses. A wise man lives a life. What is opposite of sense indulgence?
Unaffected, detached with the senses.
No. A person who lives a life of sense indulgence, what's the exact mirror image of it, opposite of it?
Vairagya, detachment.
No, I wouldn't say Vairagya. A person who indulges in the senses gives a license to his senses. Am I right?
Correct.
There is no control over the senses. So a person who opposite of that is who has sense control. One who gives a license to the mind to indulge, opposite of that is mind control. So
Makes
Damaha,
decision. Okay.
Damaha and Shamaha. Damaha is control of your
Mind.
Dama has control of the mind. Shamaha is Damaha is control over your senses. Shamaha is control over your mind. Please verify it. Let me know if I'm correct. So a man of wisdom, a spiritual man, a wise man practices self-control or sense control. And opposite of sense control is sense indulgence. So wise are afraid of the senses. So they don't go and revel in the senses. They're afraid. Why are they afraid? Because remember in the Sthita Prajna portion we learned, the senses of even a wise man while striving draw away the mind, he says. And what will the mind do? The mind draw the intellect away. And when intellect is gone, buddhi nashat pranashyati, destruction. So the senses draw the mind draws the intellect gone, finished, chapter closed. So they are aware, beware. They don't go any close to the senses. They are very careful when any temptation comes. How do you operate? Kurmongani va sarvasaha. He likes like a tortoise who withdraws its limbs, he says. So they live a life of self-control, means they are very disciplined. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread, or the wise fear to tread. And as you also said, wherever there is attachment, there is sorrow and suffering. So wise people, they don't develop any attachments. One minute, ma. You okay, Vasanta ma?
Yes, Guruji.
Yes. Yeah, Pushpa ma. Dwelling in the human form means on one side there is the spirit, that which dwells in you. The Atman is in you, but I don't worship the Atman in you. I'm worshipping the human form. I'm caught up in the matter. I'm worshipping the senses. That's what it means. I'm caught up in the human form. I am not interested in the spirit, which is the Lord of the beings. I am not interested in the self that enlivens. I'm interested in that which is being enlivened. I'm enamored by the light. I'm not interested in electricity. Arey yaar. I'm just enamored by the reflection. I'm not going to the very source. The source is the light. But I'm caught up in the reflections. Okay, move on. 12. Moghasha mogha karmanaha mogha jnana vichetasaha rakshasi masurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha moghasha mogha karmanaha mogha jnana vichetasaha Rakshasi masurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Very, very famous verse, oft quoted. Please take a note of it. Mark this verse. Chapter 9, verse 12. Moghasha mogha karmanaha mogha jnana vichetasaha. Senseless people. What is the trademark of senseless people? Vain hopes. Mogha asha. Mogha, vain hopes. V-A-I-N. Vain hopes. I hope that will get done. I'm sure it will happen tomorrow. I get that, I'll be happy. If only that happens. Vain hopes. All their life, they're only living in the future. Asha. In fact, you would say, sir, what is life without asha? I am dead wood, isn't it? Then for once live in the present, man. Why are you living in the unborn future? I get that, I'll be happy. Get this, I'll be happy. Get that sort, I'll be peaceful. I'll settle everything in my life. Everything is settled. I'll get that one thing. That now nothing never happened. All your life, vain hopes, vain hopes, vain hopes. That's why he starts off. Moghasha. Translation again, please. Moghasha. Mogha karmanaha, he says. Vain actions. Mogha jnana, vain knowledge, is the attribute of the senseless fellows. Vichetasaha. It's just such a, you get tickled with humor. You can't understand how these fellows are so clear in what they want to do. Absolutely right, Harish. The snares of 99. Correct. And then he says, Rakshasi Masuri Chaiva. Rakshasa Asura. The Rakshasas are the Rajasic people. Asuras are Tamasic people. The Rakshasas are the passionate people. Asuras are the ignorant people. Tamasic. Tamas is ignorance. Rakshasa is Rajasic. Rakshasa, Ravana was a Rakshasa, Rajas. He thought he knew everything. That vain power he had. Abused his power. So they verily are possessed of the delusive prakriti, delusive nature of the Rakshasas and the Asuras. So this verse is pointing out the worthless pursuit of the ignorant. Meaningless, worthless, senseless pursuits of how the ignorant function. So he uses 3 nouns. Correct? Mogha asha, mogha karma, mogha jnana. Now vain, mogha, vain is opposed to the main pursuit. The main purpose, the main pursuit of life, as we all understand, is to realize the self, is to get to your own identity. They are not interested in that. They are only, where are they running? Sanjay, these people with vain hopes, vain actions, and vain knowledge, where are they running?
They're only running towards the sense objects, the world.
They're all running towards the world. They are not in the pursuit of the self. And the unique nature of any pursuit of the world is it what is the nature of the world? In the context, please think in the context. Whenever you pursue the world, the nature of any worldly happiness or worldly pursuit is
Unfulfilling.
unfulfilling, correct? You may have any amount of the world with you, you will want one more. You can read and read and read. Setuji, you can have the entire library in you with you, but you will want one more book. You can read and read, you will not be satisfied. Vain knowledge. If you go into the length of study, there is no end to the length. Isn't it, sir? Do you agree with me?
I fully agree.
Fully agree. So, any amount of books you read,
More confused we are.
there is this. Now, how do you explain this vain knowledge? Vain hopes, vain actions, it's straightforward. We'll interpret it. But vain knowledge means what? They are,
They are about the world,
sorry?
about the matter, about the world. Knowledge is not of the higher, but
No, it could even be higher knowledge.
that is only Shravanam. No.
That's what. I have read Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, Guruji. I don't know what to read. Now you have introduced new text, Panchadashi by the great Vidyaranya. I will start reading Vidyaranya's text now only. And the way you said the three Panchaka also is very beautiful. Viveka Panchaka, Deepa Panchaka, Ananda Panchaka is so beautiful. I will read that very soon, Guruji. Quickly, I'll order on Amazon. And do what? Vain knowledge. Until something else comes and lures you, you are only going to the length of study. You're just acquiring information. There is no satiation. Moment you go to the depth of study, the search for knowledge ends. Should end, sir. One who goes into the depths of the ocean, he's not interested to go and cover the various surfaces. He just goes to where the plum drops, they say, just go drop right to the depth. He goes there. He's not interested anywhere else. Huh? Correct. Learn swimming first and then start deep sea diving, snorkeling and then deep sea diving. In the surface. So, and this vain element of vainness, can we call? There's no vainness, no? Huh? Vanity. This vain nature means this pride. No, when you say vain hopes, it's not pride, no? So I'm just using the word, what's the another form of the word vain? Vanity. I don't think so. Maybe whatever the word is.
Uselessness.
Vain means is a hopelessness, a sense. That's what it is. So, correct. Ashama is saying hopeless vain. Yeah. It's a hopelessly you're trying to pursue things, and this can happen. Where all it can happen? He says actions, knowledge, and hopes. It can happen to any pursuit. You can be pursuing wealth. You can be amassing wealth, and there's no end to it. Vain pursuit going on and on and on. So what is the mistake? Snares of 99, as we learn. The mistake what the ignoramuses do is we should not do that same mistake. The mistake of, when people are living in vain, they're always living in the future. Am I right? You're never living in the present. So you're never happy and contented because you're always living in the future. So the mistake we do is we pitch up the present happiness in future acquisitions of future situations. How can I say I will be happy now if I get that? I'm pitching my present happiness in future achievements. So the ignorant people are never happy, never contented because they're always living in daydreaming. They're living in the future. And the beauty of it is that it is so convincing that it's just around the corner. A fellow at 99 will just only want one. I've got 99. One, how long will it take? Let me get to that one. But that one is never there. I must say, I don't know, it's all what blessing, what it is. I don't know. This didn't exist in my life. I can be very proud to say this. Never, ever I had this mindset in my life. Never had that vainness in me or that element of wanting. Vainness, is it? Noun form is vain, is vainness. If I can be true to myself and speak, sitting here, I can't speak but the truth. But it's so true to myself. I don't know, and yet I know what I'm saying. I don't know what it is. I've never tasted it. Never experienced that vainness. That's why Rajima is saying you have been given the name Vinay. Harish ji is giving a side running commentary going on. It's like the players are playing in the center and side commentators are continuous commentary going on. I am saying and running commentary going on by Harish ji. Exaggerated vision of oneself, vanity. Is the same derivative, Harish ji? Vain? I doubt it.
Vain is vanity, is expression of vanity. And vain, the synonym for vain is conceit.
Conceit. Yeah.
So when you're conceited, that means you have an exaggerated vision of the self.
Self is not the absolute self, no?
Not the absolute self. You mean oneself.
Oneself, the ego.
Ego.
But see, when we say vain hopes, it's not the same thing. That he's referring to that here. It's hopelessness he is talking about. Harishji, when he says vain hopes, vain actions, it is almost hopelessness or senselessness, you know. That aspect of vainness he's saying. I don't think it can be interpreted as conceit or arrogance or vanity.
No, Guruji, what you are saying is you try to do this in vain.
Correct.
He
Yes.
tried in vain to achieve.
It's a futile attempt.
Futile.
A futile attempt is in vain. That aspect is it. So please get that right, you know. False hope. Yes, Soumyama, you're right. A false hope that I'll get that, you know. But what drives you is the assurance in that vein is the quality of an asura and a rakshasa. That grips you and it will not let go of you. If a ship is sinking, what should you do? Say yourself. You can't be trying to. The ship is sinking. There's no way out. You can rescue it. At least save yourself. In the process of saving the ship, you also get sunk with it. You destroy your life because trying to save the ship. It's sinking. Let it sink. It is destined to sink. Why am I trying to keep it afloat?
So, Guruji, this gamblers, after losing everything, they want to stake again others and everything. They think in the next move, next game, they will get back everything.
Correct.
In Mahabharata, same thing happened. Yeah.
Correct. Even Mahabharata, who did it? Yudhishthira. Did anybody influence Yudhishthira or he himself did it?
He was
Shakuni.
encouraged by Shakuni.
Sorry?
He was encouraged by Shakuni.
By Shakuni. He's influenced. Isn't it? But it's a right example, a gambler. But then you say, oh, thank you, I am not in this category. When you say gambler, I have never gambled, I don't gamble. Therefore, this verse not fits me. I purposely didn't use the example of a gambler. Sir, there is this quality of Rajas and Tamas. We all are caught up in it. There is an element where we all find happiness in something that I do not have. To the extent you want happiness in something you don't have, you're shifting your present happiness into the unborn future. That's a blunder. You cannot. So the infinite greed leads you to endless grief. So that greed, that avarice for wanting more and more, that infinite greed, that lobha destroys you. The infinite greed destroys you. So,
Guruji,
yes, sir.
if I may say this, the difference between the two veins is that the one vein, when you are conceited and you have an exaggerated view of yourself, it leads to the other vein, which is complete futility or failure or lack of success in whatever you are doing.
My prostrations to Harishji, at last he has connected both the veins. Successfully, he connected both. And my prostrations to you, Harishji. We were struggling. Now you have bridged the gap. You are like the great Hanuman. He is anyway the Hanuman. Huh? But what is the opposite of this vein? Yesterday I was saying in the talk. 3 of you. They 3 of them were there in the talk yesterday. I was telling in the talk yesterday. Not in this tone, but the concept came out. You will recall the opposite of any pursuit in vain is to say Tatakim. If I can say, so what? I've lost this, so what? I've gained this, so what? It arrests it ends it there. It stops it there. It keeps to it. It doesn't drag you ad infinitum. So what? Let the chapter end there. Put a full stop, not a comma. Kalidasa used to say, so what? Tatakim. So it can be a very beautiful, practical tool. This verse gives you an insight into how you conduct your life. Are you conducting your life like a divine way or an asuric way? And it is a typical trademark of a Rajasic fellow is constantly chasing and chasing and chasing, acquiring, running. And he is caught up in that vicious cycle. It is so difficult to pull him out of it. And such people, they don't know the wisdom, the wealth of the self within. They don't know. They're running round and round and round. They don't know the treasure within. We'll leave it at this. We'll come back. But as I said, take a note of this verse. It's very, very famous. And you, by heart this verse, keep chanting whenever you can. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.